It's time for your SportsEdge.com Sideline Report with Todd Griffin. Talking sports and more here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY and worldwide at WPKYonline.com. Here's your host, Todd Griffin.
Good morning, everyone. The Sideline Report is on the air from 1035 West Main Street in Princeton. And good morning, this is Todd Griffin of WPKY Radio and your SportsEdge.com. Thanks for joining us this morning. In the studio with us this morning, we've got Roy Gene Rogers and Danny Beavers. And guys, thanks for coming in and being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. I'm sorry you had to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
No. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. And, Danny, how many baseball games do you still go to?
I just go to the amateur games, but I've seen about 20 college games this year and about that many high school games. And if they're playing, it's not rained out, I'm going somewhere. It's kind of my hobby, and I don't care much for the professional game anymore because it seems like they're just overpaid crybabies, and a hangnail keeps them out for a week. But,
and they keep changing the rules.
True. That's, and the players don't stay on one team very long, and you can't really get a loyalty there. But I prefer amateur baseball. I go to minor league games too. I've only seen a couple this year, but you can see some good ball in Nashville or Bowling Green anytime you want to. And minor league games are still funny. They do a lot of silly stuff between innings, and it's amusing.
Well, it's supposed to be fun. It's baseball.
Well, true. That's really true.
Danny Beavers is former baseball head coach at Caldwell County High School, and you may know him as the mayor, Danny Beavers. And Roy Gene Rogers, you've kind of become a bit of a historian on the local scene.
Well, Danny's talking about minor league teams. And I told you, I sent you a message, and we talked here a couple of weeks ago. I've been doing research. I got a storytelling coming up on the 23rd of May. We've had a couple of those be at George Coon Library. This one was on the Tradewater River and the moonshine stills, a lot of them that were located along the Tradewater River. But in doing the research, I came up on interesting facts about baseball here in, mostly in Hopkins County, but a lot of it bled over into Caldwell County. For example, over in Dawson, the earliest team that they had over there was 1902, and then in 1911 they had their first high school team. And a lot of information. I went over to the park yesterday, took a few pictures that we'll be sharing, but a lot of information about, baseball back in the 1900s. Actually, one of the leagues continued to the 1950s, and it had a team from Princeton playing in that league.
Oh, wow.
Lots of information over there.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about some of the old baseball teams throughout the area, and you've got to get to a break right now, but Danny Beavers and Roy Gene Rogers are with us. Kevin Patton from the Henderson Gleaner is going to join us a little bit later on this hour to talk about second region baseball and softball. So a busy show today. Stay with us. You're listening to the Sideline Report on WPKY.
Need cash fast? Get the money you need. Call ABC Finance now.
What if you go to get your mower out and it won't start, or the honey-do list of repairs around the house seems to keep growing?
Whatever it is, you want to resolve your problem quickly and get back to your regular life.
Hi, this is Jody Lamb at the Princeton ABC Finance location.
And this is Todd Morris at the Hopkinsville location.
And we can help you buy a new mower or take care of those honey-dos.
At ABC Finance, we provide loans up to $15,000.
We are locally owned and staffed, and decisions are made quickly, usually within an hour.
No appointment is needed, and walk-ins are welcome.
You can even give us a call, and we can take your application over the phone.
Or you can apply online at abcfinanceonline.com.
And like us on Facebook.
ABC Finance in Hopkinsville on Fort Campbell Boulevard next to O'Charlie's, and in Princeton Plaza. ABC Finance. All loans subject to normal credit approval.
Shop local, buy local, save big deals.
It's
It's here! The Loyal Listener Big Deal Store is online and waiting for you to shop and buy gift certificates to local businesses. Go to WPKYonline.com. Click on Loyal Listener Big Deals. Here you'll find dozens and dozens of gift certificates. Some you'll even be able to redeem from your smartphone. Shop and buy 24 hours a day and save a ton of money in the process. Save on oil changes, dining out, haircuts, car washes, and more. Our store never closes. But you better hurry. You never know how long each deal will last.
Life is filled with moments. Moments we share with those we love, worry about, and strive to protect the most. At Woodman Life, we provide life insurance and retirement products to help protect you and your family so that you can enjoy all the moments to come.
This is Josh Ray, your local Woodman Life agent. Come see us at 1009 West Main Street or give us a call at 365-6111.
Certain eligibility and age restrictions apply. Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society, Omaha, Nebraska.
Has Fido had a little too much fun playing in the springtime weather? Is it time for that new warm weather dew? Does mom and dad need a vacation? Pet Grooming and Boarding by David Rogers is in full swing of pampering your fur baby. Whether it's grooming, doggy daycare, or boarding in their luxurious pet hotel, they strive to give your fur baby a great experience. Voted best groomer and boarding facility in Western Kentucky, they are the only AKC certified groomers in the area. Remember, big or small, Pet Grooming and Boarding by David Rogers loves them all.
We're back on the Sideline Report. Thanks for joining us on a Thursday morning here at WPKY. A busy sports schedule today. If the rain holds off, Collier County Baseball hosting Hopkinsville today. Softball is at home today with a makeup date against Hopkins County Central. The Tiger and Lady Tiger tennis teams are at home against University Heights. And track is scheduled to go over to Hopkins County Central today. So, guys, a lot of things going on if it doesn't rain.
As we were discussing off air, the radar was showing most of the rain going to the south of us, and I hope that's the case so they can get these games and matches in. And the track meet, I haven't seen much about our track team, as many meets as they've been, or if they've had very many. I've seen some or heard some, but reports. But seems like all of our sports programs are doing pretty good out to high school.
Having a pretty good season. And, about the weather, I'm not sure why they try to predict the weather 5 to 10 days in advance, because it's Kentucky. You don't know what it's going to do 30 minutes from now.
That's fact.
We were talking baseball, and Roy Jean, you had an interesting story there.
Again, going back to the research I've been doing, over at Dawson, a lot of the major league teams, you had Pittsburgh Pirates that came over there. The Boston Red Sox actually did an exhibition game, but you had several minor league and major league teams that actually came in to Dawson to do spring training. And in the 1900s, I think it was around 1915, 16, 17, the citizens over there built a pavilion indoor. And people could come in, and the one team, I think it was the Pirates, I'd have to double check that, but they would come in and they would do their spring training. Mainly, they loved the food. This is what was recorded. They loved the food, but you also had the springs over there where they could take the baths in the springs, but one of the, I think it was the Columbus, Ohio Senators minor league team came in, and they recruited a player from Dawson and actually stayed on the circuit for 1 year. This player was actually a gun-shy dog by the name of Ring. And Ring would sit or stand on the sideline, and if there was a foul ball, he would chase the foul ball. And he could actually sometimes, they said, beat players, which might be upsetting to them, to the ball and catch it. But he never would go across into fair territory. So this Columbus, Ohio Senator signed this dog up. His owner traveled with them for 1 year on the minor league circuit, and he was their mascot. But he actually was on the field, and and would retrieve the foul balls. So I thought that was very unusual and something that, a lot of people in this area I'm sure are not aware of, and I wasn't till I started digging into these old history books and photos and things like that. But another interesting thing about baseball around here was over in Dawson, Hopkins County, you had all these coal miners, and they would play on the teams. And the owners of the coal mines would let them off early and provided uniforms, and most of them played on Sunday afternoons, and had a lot of people from Princeton all the way down to Calvert City that participated in those, and there's pictures around of those teams, so it's interesting.
Yeah, back in the day, I think every community pretty much had a baseball team once the weather warmed up and throughout the summer that would play. And if you go back into the old copies of the newspapers here, you can go back to the 1800s even, yes, and see full box scores from games.
You did a picture of my dad's uniform from Crider. I don't know whether you remember that, but you came out to high school, and we had that old uniform and his glove and his catcher's gear, and you made a picture of that, and it was in the paper. But yeah, every community had a team.
Yeah, I think sometimes the field was just wherever you could throw down four bases.
Yeah,
basically.
Basically, it was a feed sack with straw in it for the bases.
But, so much is made today. People talk about the fields and getting a bad hop or whatever, and you think back to when they were playing 100 years ago, just wherever they could find a spot to play. And, I'm sure they were getting all kinds of crazy hops, but people wanted to play.
Right. And they talk about the crowds in the 1900s, that the players all worked together in these coal mines, so they all got along very well. But the fans, it shows one picture of where the fans or the stands, they wasn't really stands, they were just places for the people to sit or stand, and there was a fight, and it was mainly between the women that was going on. And so, the players all had to go back to work on Monday and work in those coal mines together, but they got heated. But it's like y'all said, they enjoyed the game, didn't get paid, and so they just enjoyed playing. So,
but I think a lot of those community teams kind of took the place of the high school teams. Most people have told me that before the 1950s, the high school didn't have a team, and I was told once that Princeton Butler never had a high school baseball team. However, if you go back to 1915, Princeton High School did have a picture of their baseball team in the school yearbook. So I'm not sure when the high school quit having baseball teams, but a lot of people tell me back in the 30s and 40s, Butler didn't have one, that you just played on one of the teams in the area.
That's best. What research I've done like that, Todd, is, the high school just couldn't support it. And, later on, even in the 50s and 60s, it was tough for athletics to support spring sports, period, unless they had a really good football or basketball season and raked in some money.
Well, I was going to say one of the reasons they didn't play high school baseball so much back in the day is because they spent a lot of the spring practicing football.
They did. Even here, the annual Blue Gold game, which ended spring football practice, was the last Friday in April. And we had a lot of good athletes that played football that also played baseball, but they didn't really get a chance to get a feel for the game before the district tournament. It would be 10 days after the final football practice, so to speak. And the Blue Gold game was a fundraiser. They didn't really charge admission, but they'd take up a collection, have some barbecue or something, and it was a fundraiser. But it was unfair to the football players who tried to play baseball because they just couldn't get in the groove. And we had some guys in high school back then that could have won a regional championship if they'd have played 10 or 12 games, but usually they played one or two for the district tournament.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of those years, just a handful of games because, like I said, they didn't get to baseball very quickly, and then you had to play a couple of games just to get ready for the district tournament, and then the season was over.
In the VFW ballpark back then, if it rained on Monday, you didn't play again until the next week. Water would pool up, and the VFW regulars had buried some 55-gallon drums around the infield to sweep water in, and then they would occasionally burn, pour gasoline on the dirt and burn it to dry it out, and just anything to get the field ready to play. But it was difficult, and of course the field now is absolutely as good as it could be. Our kids really have a great place to play, girls and boys.
Yeah, you look at the infield over at the VFW ballpark, and it's like carpet out there.
Yep. But I remember when we were on the board of Youth Incorporated together, those barrels were still there.
Yeah.
And
is that right?
Yes, and that's sometimes I wonder if they are still buried down there. But that was, the barrels were there where the water could drain in, and like Danny said, you set those fields on fire to dry to dry them off. But a lot of things have changed, and again, those fields, like you said, they're beautiful. They're well taken care of.
Well, when I was growing up, like Danny said, the infield was dirt. And as a matter of fact, at one point, every team in the district, Crittenden County had a dirt infield, Lyon County had a dirt infield, Livingston had a dirt infield. I don't think Trigg was in the district back then, but I think even they had an all-dirt infield. So you're right.
So.
If it rained, you were done for a week.
Of course, I wasn't up here. I was in that great school of Fredonia down there, and
but they had a dirt infield.
We played basketball on a dirt, field too. No, not really. Our gym was great, but yeah, we were talking earlier about some things that transpired when we were in, or when I was playing even, and then we had a pitcher, Bruce Francis. And we had 8 teams, if I remember correct. And then you had minor league teams where you'd move up. I was on the Rotary Reds, but we had some great pitchers. We were naming some of them a while ago, but one of them, Bruce Francis. Bruce was, he could throw very hard, but he was a little bit wild. You never knew where it was going to the ball was going to end up. And one night he was warming up, and this was prior to the game that I was going to participate in, and Danny remembers it as well, that it would one pitch would hit one side of the fence, and then one the other, and then one would bounce, and then finally one just sailed completely over the top of the backstop. And the team they were going to play was the Civitan Tigers, and the Civitan Tigers forfeited the game. If I remember that correctly, Danny?
Yeah, I was in the press box then, actually working.
Well, one thing that I kind of miss about the Youth Incorporated ballpark is we don't have a sports Sox team anymore.
Yes.
To me, that was always the Hosiery Mill Sports Sox.
Hosiery Mill, yeah. Medigo Pirates, Civitan Tigers, Rotary Reds, starting to leave Kiwanis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Starting to leave some of them.
The Elks Indians.
Indians, yes.
Yeah, I remember all those teams, and it was sort of a big deal to play on those teams. And
yes.
Today we kind of pick teams every year, and kids get shuffled around a little bit. But back then,
you stayed on that team. Yep.
Yeah, I think I spent 4 seasons on the Sports Sox. That's how good I was. I just stayed there.
And we were talking about the changes that have been made as far as. I think Danny said that lots of times we went all the way up to the end of July, or right before school started, we'd be playing. And today, you're done by the end of June. And if you get rained out, you still don't. If you can make those games up, you do. If you don't, it kind of canceled out. But it's changed a great deal.
But I don't remember travel ball being as big a deal back when I was younger, and those games meant a lot. Maybe not in the grand scheme of things, but to kids in school. Right. I mean, you talked about those games all week leading up to them, and then you talked about them afterward, and it was a big deal if you were 10 or 11 years old at the time.
Well,
That's really true, and there was all kinds of rivalries, among the teams, and the ballpark would be full of people every Monday and Friday night when Little League played. It was the thing to do, and the ballpark was always a good place to raise your family in the summertime. There was no violence, and just everybody was having a good time, good concessions, which kept fueling Youth Incorporated. That's pretty much how they survived. Was of course back then, as Roy Jean mentioned, the sponsors of the team paid a small amount to sponsor the team each year. Probably I think it was $100, and in the 13 to 15-year-old league, got to mention them. There were the Baptist Braves, the Methodist Yanks, Standard Oil Giants, and let's see, I'm leaving one out.
There's one more I can't remember, but they, like Danny said, he'll think of
Christian
it in a minute.
Cubs, yeah. I had to get those in, but and then when I was 14 and 15, Fredonia joined our pony league, and we would go down there and play a game, and Fredonia would come up here and play a game, and that was really, really interesting, a lot of fun, because we got to, travel a little bit. And Fredonia had an outstanding team. They borrowed a couple of players from Mott City, and Ronnie and Donnie Mott, I believe, and they had an outstanding pitcher named Tandy Easley. And I remember Bob Hodges, Gill's brother, came down to see him pitch, and it happened to be our team that was playing at Fredonia. And Bob Hodges gave me his business card, and it was the first raised letter printing I'd ever seen. And it said scout for the Los Angeles Dodgers then. And Tandy didn't let him down. He pitched well. He ended up going to Vanderbilt on a basketball scholarship, but he also played baseball there and pitched and did well for a couple of seasons till his knees were in such bad shape that he just couldn't compete, and that was back before they could fix everything in your body with surgery. But he was probably the most outstanding player that came through during that era anyway.
We're talking this morning with Danny Beavers and Roy Jean Rogers. And Danny, I think the one time the ballpark actually broke my heart was the Settle Field used to always have that pretty green fence around it, the wooden fence. And when I went out there one time and it was gone, I think that, that I almost wish we could have that park back sometimes.
Well, I think Bashir Sawmill donated the wood. I know that the coaches and interested fans and parents put the fence up. They replaced the fence in the early 60s. It was painted green, and it was I had a couple of players one time that I knew they couldn't see well because, I'd play catch with them, and they'd kind of flinch right at the last minute to catch the ball. So I took them to Dr. Perkins on his day off, and he did an exam for me. And I remember one kid said he didn't know there was any space between the wood. He couldn't see it well enough. And he said, I saw leaves on a tree for the first time. And, but I remember him commenting about the fence, and that would be something that, for nostalgia reasons, I was hoping Youth Incorporated would be able to back the fence up to about the roadway behind left field and around the center, and then put a green monster in right field. So
that's been talked about.
Well, when we replace the utility poles, that will be the time to do it. But that would be a unique ballpark, and I think travel teams would come here to play on that type of field.
Now, talking about the ballpark, though, my first job was at the ballpark. And, Danny, you probably remember.
I do.
Because you were there, and, what did we get, $5, $6 a game for keeping score back then?
That's true.
That was big money, though, back then.
Well, it was a job, and there weren't that many jobs.
Go back to the fans and to the umpires. we didn't have the problems that I see emerging today and hear about. It was like Danny said. It was you raised your family at the ballpark. I remember standing in the middle of the fields when I had 3 sons out there playing, trying to watch each one of them maybe bat or something like that. But we just didn't have those problems. Of course, times have changed a great deal, but it was a fun time to be out at the ballpark, and it's kind of missed. Like you say, the green monster there, I think traveling teams would definitely come here to play in something like that.
I do want to switch gears just a little bit and bring in some basketball. Some big news. Michael Fralick's named the basketball boys head coach over at Hopkins County Central, and Michael's going to be on the show with us next week, so I'm getting a plug there. But Roy Jean, I know you know Michael well.
Oh, yes,
and
very well.
His coaching style.
Yes. Michael will be a great coach. I mean, he's like me. Of course, I like the fundamentals. You talking about traveling teams? I guess I took the first traveling team, and I was coaching for Youth Incorporated and wasn't satisfied with the style of competition and what we were doing. So Earl Fralick, Stan Hudson, Ronald Wood, there was a whole bunch of us. We just pulled off. We went with Sporting Chance Incorporated. The team that won the 7th district was the first team that we really started with. We had 3rd and 4th graders. We traveled all over the state of Kentucky and Tennessee and different places. We'd play 54 games, lots of times 54 games a summer. And then when I retired, of course, I coached middle school under Michael. And again, Michael Fralick will do a super job at any place he goes. I mean, he is one of those that he gives his 110% every time he steps out on that court. So, I wish him very well. Known his family, of course, all of us played at Fredonia. Bobby Joe was on the team that I played on. If we'd had a 3-point line back in the 60s, I had Joe Yates and Bobby Joe Fralick, Philip Fond, Dougie Phelps, Larry Yancey. All of us were short. So we had to stay way outside so we could even get a chance to shoot the ball, and we were pretty proficient at the 3-point, what we would call today a 3-point shot. But if we'd had that line back then, we would have probably won the region and the district, but we didn't have it. So, but yeah, Michael will do great. He will.
I think he'll be able to find the athletes over there to play the way he wants to play. I think he wants to play more of an aggressive kind of game, and they've got the kids to do that.
Yes.
Going to make the 7th district a lot of fun in the coming years.
Yes. Be a little competition there, yes.
Well, Danny, we're talking about baseball again, and I don't think people realize how much baseball has gone on out at the VFW ballpark through the years, and even back before that. But just some of the old teams like the Twin States League teams and those kind of things that played out there, it's kept the place busy.
Well, Roy Jean was mentioning the players from Dawson Springs, and in the modern era, well, it's not modern to most people, but in the 50s and 60s, Dawson produced Billy Ray Seibert, one of the best players I've ever seen. I think he got to go to spring training with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it was a battle between him and Willie Stargell. And I think Billy Ray won out, but I think he came home. He might have gotten hurt and didn't go back, but he was an outstanding player and hit the longest home run I've ever seen at the VFW ballpark. It went all the way down to the creek. It might have hit the old tennis court in the air and bounced that far, but it was against a quality team, Paducah. They had 5 players on that team that made it to the major leagues, and I just remember that he stroked it, and when he hit it, everybody knew where it was going. They just didn't know where it was going to land. But he was an outstanding player. And we had in the Twin State Leagues back in the 50s and 60s, we had some outstanding players locally, you know. A few of them are still around. Billy Ray Newby and Billy Hobby were both outstanding players and played on that team, those teams.
I found a picture of those two. I don't know how far back it goes, but it was, mentioning them, but they were good players. We had some good ones.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jewel Patterson as the head coach, and he also coached Legion ball. But Jewel was a finagler of a manager, and occasionally would bring himself in to relief pitch because he had a lot of junk, and he could go through the lineup once, but after that it was better take him out.
Well, Danny, I was going to ask you about the regional championship team you coached. I mean, what kind of memories do you have from that team?
Well, I'm getting old, and it's been over 20 years, so. But I'll tell you what, that was a darn good bunch of kids. They played hard. They went up to the plate with a bat, and they intended to use it. Every one of them, 1 through 9, and 3 or 4 subs. They liked to hit the ball, and did. They could all hit. We worked at that more than probably pitching and defense, but we had good pitching, which you need 3 solid pitchers to win a regional championship, and we had at least 4, so we were blessed, and we got jacked around by Henderson. They kept changing playing times and dates, and I remember we had a meeting, and Bill Tom Wayne, the legendary coach at Henderson, said, well, we just can't play Friday night because we have class night or graduation. Said, we have 612 seniors. And I said, well, we'll play at 2 o'clock in the morning. We don't care when we play, but we only have 600 kids in our whole school. And, of course, that got a chuckle out of everybody. But after the game, they were interviewing me on television from Evansville, and they insinuated that we were lucky to win. And we had knocked out their number 1, 2, and 3 pitchers, literally. And the reporter said, but you only won 13-12. And I said, yeah, but we didn't get to bat in the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah, that was a great team, and enjoyed talking some sports with you guys this morning. I hate that we're out of time. Anything else you guys want to add before you get out?
A mutual cousin of ours that we were talking about,
Right.
we was talking about great players, Elwood Rogers. He received an invitation to try out for the St. Louis Cardinals, but we were just discussing this. The same day that he got that invitation, he also got his notice to report to the Army. He was inducted, and I think he was injured while he was serving and just then didn't have time to, or couldn't never recover enough to go back. But we had some great baseball players here in this county and a lot of memories.
I feel like we just scratched the surface of what we could talk about.
So we could talk about it all day, and some of us still remember, some of the guys that played, and they were very colorful too. It was interesting to go to a ball game on Sunday. The Twin State Leagues might not have. It was probably equivalent to a Class D minor league, at least, and there were some really colorful players. Fred Clayton, the football coach here, was a great pitcher. He'd always square off against Johnny Reagan. Johnny would sometimes pitch for Salem, but whoever could get him to pitch for him. And then some of the teams down toward Murray, like Lola and Palma and Coldwater, they'd recruit some Murray players, usually a pitcher or two. And when you went to see one of those games, you knew you were going to see quality, at least quality pitchers. And it was just a fun thing to do on Sunday afternoon. And baseball had a great tradition in Western Kentucky.
Well, you guys need to come back in again sometime, and we'll
Thank
pick
you,
up
Todd.
where we left off.
Appreciate it, Todd.
Thank you.
That's Danny Beavers and Roy Jean Rogers, and we appreciate them coming in today. We're going to get Kevin Patton on the phone and talk a little baseball and softball with him, too. So stay with us. The Sideline Report continues on WPKY.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Today's not going to be quite as pretty as it was yesterday with cooler temperatures. Showers and thunderstorms expected before noon and a high of 72. 40% chance of showers does continue tonight with an overnight low around 55. A 20% chance of showers tomorrow, but mostly in the morning, and a high only getting to 65. Friday night, 20% chance of showers with mostly cloudy skies and an overnight low around 51. And a 60% chance of showers will start your weekend with a high of 65. Again today, showers and thunderstorms before noon with a high of 72.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Kay's Kitchen.
Here's a reminder from your Princeton Electric Plant Board. Meter tampering is dangerous. Tampering with an electric meter is not only dangerous, it is dishonest and against the law. Stealing electricity by tampering with an electric meter may result in your arrest and can even risk your life. Tampering with meters results in increased utility bills that everyone has to pay. If you see anyone tampering with an electric meter, call the Princeton Electric Plant Board right away at 270-365-2031. Princeton Electric Plant Board, Princeton's #1 energy source.
Trigg County Hospital is pleased that Dr. Carl Hinton is practicing at the Trigg County Hospital Surgery Center. Dr. Hinton is well known and loved in the area and provides years of experience in the following procedures: appendectomy, colonoscopy, EGD, gallbladder, skin lesions, tubal ligation, and more. Dr. Hinton is available for clinic appointments Monday through Thursday, 1 to 5, and Fridays, 8 to noon. His office is located in Suite D of the Medical Arts Building, next to Trigg County Hospital. Call 270-522-2557.
The Sideline Report continues on 1580, 103.3 WPKY. This is Todd Griffin in the WPKY studios, and thanks for listening to the show this morning. Joining us now from Henderson, we've got Kevin Patton of the Henderson Gleaner on the line. Kevin, good morning. How's it going?
Good morning, Todd. Going well. How are you?
Doing excellent. Hoping we get some games in today. Hopefully the weather stays away. They were originally calling for about 90% chance of rain. Then it went to 70. I think the last time I looked it was 60. So, hey, it's Kentucky weather. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. Moving in the right direction anyway. I kind of planned on having a day off today, but it may not work out that way.
We'll see. A lot of teams trying to get in a lot of games here as we approach the postseason. And, Kevin, right now in the second region, how in the heck do you pick a favorite in baseball and softball?
I don't think you can. And I don't know that in either baseball or softball, I don't know that I've ever seen a region so balanced. On both sides. There's I was thinking about baseball. I would say there's probably 7 teams with a chance to win the region, and softball maybe not hardly that many, but 6. And softball really some strong teams that. I think whoever's going to win the region may have a chance to go deep in the state tournament. Certainly this region is as strong as any in the state on the softball side.
Yeah, if I had to hazard a guess right now, I would probably say Henderson is the favorite in baseball, maybe Webster in softball, but I'm not sure I would feel real strong about those.
I would agree with both of those. That's kind of what I was thinking. Henderson is, having seen them play obviously more than anybody, very good offensively, probably the best offensive team in the region, certainly scoring the most runs of anybody. Pitching has been decent, maybe better than what I expected. Young pitching staff, or an inexperienced pitching staff at the start of the season. Defense is very susceptible, and they've had some really bad games. They're capable of giving up a lot of runs, and there's been times when the wheels will fall off completely. I don't know that they're capable of putting together 3 good games in a row. I haven't seen that yet. I tell you a team that I would, if you're going to make me pick a team to win the region, I would say Union County. Probably the most experienced veteran pitching staff with Coy Burns and Cade Duncan, who pitched in a lot of big games. Playing at home, which could be a big factor. When the time comes, and just their history of success in the regional tournament over the last, 8 years or so since Chad Robinson has been their coach, they just seem to pull it all together in the regional tournament. But then again, I don't feel very confident about either one of those. I think, I would say Christian County probably has the best pitcher in Wyatt Stevenson. The Hopkinsville team has shown that they beat Henderson badly here. 17-5 about 3 weeks ago. You look at Caldwell County, I think, is capable of slipping there. Madisonville with a good team. Lyon County, I think any of those could win it. Should be a fun regional.
I was going to say, when you get to that regional tournament, it's going to depend a lot on the draw this year, I think, just depending on when somebody can maybe pitch their number one or can save him a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And I think because the region is so balanced, I think everybody's going to have to come out with their number one in that first round, because there's no – I don't think there's a sure thing. I don't think there's anybody – maybe one team might get a decent, and you don't know how the district's going to play out either. You could get a surprise in there that could throw everything out of whack. But I don't think there's going to be an easy game for anybody in the first round or anywhere. So maybe the team that has the most starting pitching, or maybe who knows, weather may come into play. If you get a couple of days delay and a team could bring back a number one guy, that might help somebody out. There's a lot of variables there. Matchups, teams have beaten each other, all season. So it's I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know that the region is very strong. That would be I think we have a lot of decent teams in the region. I don't think we have any what I would consider real good teams. I may be wrong. I just don't see, outside the region, teams haven't seemed to have a lot of success outside the region. So I just think maybe the region as a whole maybe is a little weaker than what it usually is, but it's very balanced, which makes for a good regional tournament.
Yeah, it seems like the offenses this year are a little bit better than the pitching overall in the second region. The last few years, you could look back to the teams that had a dominant pitcher or two as being the favorites. This year, like you said, Union County's got a pretty good staff. Christian County, when healthy, has those really good pitchers. But it's really going to depend on who can cobble together the best staff over that week of the regional tournament.
I would agree. You talk about scoring runs. Henderson scored over 10 runs in 5 of their last 7 games. I mean, they're 16, 10, 13, 12. They had a 13-12 game with Caldwell. They had a 16-13 game with Christian County. So that's, I don't know if that's good baseball necessarily. But I think that's characteristic of the region this year. I just think, like you said, the offense is better than the pitching, not a real dominant pitcher. I don't think there's any real dominant pitchers out there. Not like, Caldwell has had with Shane Burns in recent years. You know that you can go out and you're going to, he's going to shut a team down. I don't think there's anybody in the region that can do that. So it's going to be interesting, I think. And there, like I said, there could be some upsets in the region, in the districts. I talk about Union, but Webster County split with them in the regular season, and the other loss was a 1-run. They had 2 1-run games with Union County, so it would not be far fetched that Webster were to beat Union in the 6th district here and knock them out in the regional. So, and you can see that in one of the other districts as well.
Yeah, I think more so than any year I can remember, this year is set up in baseball and softball for a dark horse to really slip in there and, if not win the region, at least make a run to that championship game.
I would agree. I think when you look at that, you can look on the baseball side, somebody like Lyon County maybe that's a little bit. I mean, I know they've won 19 games and strong team, but maybe a team that most people wouldn't expect to make a run to the finals or even win it. And I think they have as good a shot as anybody, to be honest.
We're talking this morning with Kevin Patton of the Henderson Gleaner. We need to get to a break, and we'll talk more baseball and softball with Kevin right after this. You're listening to the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Today's not going to be quite as pretty as it was yesterday with cooler temperatures. Showers and thunderstorms expected before noon and a high of 72. 40% chance of showers does continue tonight with an overnight low around 55. A 20% chance of showers tomorrow, but mostly in the morning, and a high only getting to 65. Friday night, 20% chance of showers with mostly cloudy skies and an overnight low around 51. And a 60% chance of showers will start your weekend with a high of 65. Again today, showers and thunderstorms before noon with a high of 72.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Fredonia Valley Bank.
Since 1978, Perry's Floors & More has been selling, installing, and servicing homeowners throughout Western Kentucky with quality flooring and workmanship. Perry's Floors & More carries luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile, carpet, window treatments, and more. Brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. Quality brands, excellent customer service, combined with 40 years experience is why they say you can walk on our reputation. See Bill and Lucy at Perry's Floors & More, 127 West Market Street, Princeton.
We are back on the Sideline Report on a Thursday morning at WPKY. Want to tell you about Dave's Deal of the Week at U-Ride in Princeton. This week it's a 2010 Ford F-150 King Cab. It's a black 4x4. Available right now at U-Ride in Princeton. See Dave for details. That's U-Ride, 310 Marion Road, Princeton. Telephone 270-365-3215. That's Dave's Deal of the Week. We're talking with Kevin Patton of the Henderson Gleaner this morning. And Kevin, again, thanks for coming on the show. And we've talked a lot about baseball. If you look at Second Region softball this year, it's a lot like baseball. A whole lot of teams thinking they have a chance to get to that regional championship game.
Oh, no doubt. I think you look at Webster County, Henderson County, Christian County, Madisonville, Caldwell County, Lyon County probably, all feeling like, hey, we've got a chance to, at least get the championship game or maybe win it. I would hate to pick a favorite. I like Webster County's chances because, I think they have the best pitcher in the region in Carly Keeney, who, has pitched since she was a seventh grader, I think, on the varsity, and is going, D1 pitcher, has, command of 5 pitches. She's always around the strike zone. She throws hard. And they've got a good, they got a good team backing her up. I wouldn't say they're real strong offensively. There's better offensive teams out there, but if you've got a good pitcher, that goes along. That just, goes a long way. And they've got, Grace Scott, their number 2 pitcher, is very good. And actually, I'm working on a story for this weekend on Carly and how much that has helped her. Just it gives her a little more rest than what she's had in the past. I think it will be big for them going into the postseason that they have a second pitcher that they can use who's very effective. And if nothing else, it gives Carly some rest. And not a huge deal in softball, but I think it does help.
And it doesn't hurt that Webster County will get to play the softball tournament over on their home field this year.
That is for sure, and that's a big plus, and it's a big plus, for always plus playing at home. But you think about travel. Sometimes Webster County not exactly the easiest place in the world to get to. You could say the same with baseball, and Union County even more of a factor sometimes. But yeah, playing at home is a big plus, and I think you look for those things in a region that's so balanced. Maybe just a little thing like being at home is what pushes them over the top. They've lost. Let's see, they beat and recently they beat. Of course, they beat Owensboro Catholic earlier this week. They beat Henderson twice. They beat Christian County. They beat McCracken County. But then they lost to Madisonville last week. So everybody in the region seems to have beat up on everybody else. Henderson beat Christian last week. Caldwell's beat Christian, right?
Yes,
so,
beat them 6-1 the other night.
So you've got, Caldwell beat Henderson. It's back. Everybody's back and forth. They beat each other, and it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out as far as the regional goes with softball too. I think there's, at least 5 quality teams in the region in softball, and all with a good chance of maybe making some noise at the state level, whoever survives out of this region.
Yeah, the Caldwell County teams are starting to play well at a good point in the season. The Lady Tiger softball team has won 11 of 13, 6 in a row. The Tiger baseball team has won 4 straight now, so those teams are trying to throw their hat into the ring as well to be contenders. So it just should be an outstanding, district tournaments to start with, but then you get to that regional tournament, and again, it's all going to be about matchups, and that draw is going to be really important this year.
It certainly will be, maybe more so than what we've ever seen before, or at least in recent years. It's just, you know, and I think some teams match up better with others. You know, that's why I think you see, especially on the softball side, where you see, you know, everybody is, you know, I don't think, everybody's lost in the region. You know, so they, you know, Webster has 2 region losses, Christian has 4, Henderson has 3, Lyon has 3, Madisonville has 2. You know, Caldwell has more, but they beat but here lately they beat some of the better teams. So it's, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure.
Going to get a little different look at the postseason this year for both baseball and softball, and no longer all 16 teams going to state. We'll have sectional play, and it was announced this week that the first and second region will square off at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green. So, Kevin, what do you make of the new postseason plan?
I like it. You know, baseball is kind of reverting to the way it was for a while. You know, they did that sectional format for a few years, but it was the best 2 out of 3. I like this better, where it's just one game. It makes it consistent with the rest of the postseason. You know, it cuts down on travel a little bit, as opposed to like last year with baseball, where you might have had to go to Lexington for 2 weeks in a row. You know, Bowling Green obviously a little closer. I like playing on the college campuses. I think that's great. You know, it makes it more, as opposed to in the past, you know, when they had sectionals, you played at a high school. It makes it more meaningful, I think, for the players. I think, you know, anytime you can play on a college campus, it's going to be more special for the players. And I think that's one of the main things you know, that when they consider postseason sites, that they need to try to keep in mind, you know, that, hey, it's a special, just even in a regional tournament, it's special for the kids to make it. We don't have that opportunity in the second region. That's one thing you know, the first region generally, you know, gets to play their basketball and some of their other postseason tournaments, baseball occasionally at Murray State. And that's always, you know, it makes it special for them, I think. I think it makes it more memorable, you know, but I think at that next level, I think that's big too, to be able to go to Western and play. And you know, the softball format, I like the elimination of the double elimination tournament. If I can use elimination twice.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is. But I've always felt like that was not consistent with any other sport in the state. There's no other sport where they had a double elimination tournament in the state tournament. And I realize that that's kind of inherent with, you know, travel softball and things like that. But I was like, you know, it just never seemed to fit with anything else that they did in the postseason. So, and it obviously made for some super long weekends. You know, there was, you know, when they tried to cram it into 2 days, there were, you know, nights that they finished up at 3 a.m, I think, you know, if they had rain or something, and just got ridiculous. And obviously, again, a chance to play at a better facility, you know, at UK as opposed to, you know, Jack Fisher Park in Owensboro, which is fine for what it is, you know, for a facility that has 4 fields where you're trying to play 30 games. But when you don't have to play that many games, you know, you're again, I think it's going to make the experience more special for the 8 teams that are there.
This is the Sideline Report on WPKY, Princeton, Kentucky, talking to Kevin Patton of the Henderson Gleaner. And, yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. I like that they're picking some nice facilities for this. I kind of miss that all 16 teams don't get to go to state. But like you were saying, it's a logistical nightmare to try to get all that worked out.
Yeah, it is. And then you've got another 2 days of state, you know, of state tournament, and you play for baseball. You can't do it. It's hard to do. They tried it. It's hard to do it all in a week, you know, because then your pitching really becomes thin, you know, when you're looking at playing 4 days in a week to win the state championship. So they tried to spread it over 2 weeks. I don't think the Legends like that too much, and I don't blame them. You know, it's their home facility. You know, we don't want to give up 2 weekends of home games in a row, you know, and I get that. And so that got to be a problem. So I think this is probably the best solution maybe for the baseball side. I like the softball. I really do. I think, again, you could make it work with 16 teams, you know, at the state tournament where you probably could, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different animal there because you're not dealing with professional organization's facility, I guess, makes it a little better. And the pitching situation is obviously different for softball than baseball, but I don't know. Again, nothing is ever set in stone. The KHSAA is always willing to try to improve and see what works best. We've seen that especially in recent years, that they're willing to adjust their tournament schedule to try new things if it seems to work better. So at least for now, this is what we have. I agree. I think it'll be good for all 16 teams to go to whatever the state tournament is. But then again, you have to consider that this sectional play is part of the state tournament. I think that's the way of looking at it. And I think playing at college facilities helps make it feel that way, especially with two teams, with there being two games, instead of just one, when obviously the first and second regional play each other, but the third and fourth will also be there. So it gives it more of that tournament atmosphere, I think. We've talked about baseball and softball, but Kevin, you've also got regional tennis coming up in your backyard just next week. It is, and I don't know that I'm qualified to talk much about that. It is here. It will be I would assume they'll use both facilities here. I think that's the plan, yeah. The Water Street courts downtown, which are outstanding. If there's a better tennis facility anywhere around here, I don't know where it is. I mean, if for nothing else, you can sit down on the bench and watch the river and just be all relaxed, if nothing else, while you're there. But and then they also have the courts at the high school, which are they've done some repairs to. But it does allow them to, as long as the weather cooperates, it allows the tournament to move quickly here because you have so many courts available. I think Madisonville is technically the host school, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's right. But I don't know a lot about the matchups. I know that I think a lot of the usual suspects will be among the contenders. But yeah, that starts. I believe will start Monday, from what I understand. I think they're having the regional meeting on Sunday, and then we'll start on Monday. Yeah, I think they're going to go Monday, Tuesday, and then maybe the championships on Wednesday. So hopefully good weather for all that to try to get that in, because that's a lot of matches you got to play in a very short time. It is, and the weather always. I know one year we had the regional here not too many years ago, and we had 2 or 3 days of rain, and ended up trying to play indoors at the YMCA, which you only had, I think, 2 courts there, and it just, they were inside and they in and out, and they went back and forth, and it was I think we spent about 6 or 7 days trying to get the tournament completed. So hopefully the weather's the big thing there. If it stays good, it'll hopefully go smoothly. Yeah, and hopefully the weather holds off today so everybody can get games in. And just one more thing I want to ask you, Kevin. Have you been keeping up with the Stanley Cup playoffs? My Blues are still going. I have not. I'm not a hockey fan. Oh, no. I can't help you out on that. Well, I just wanted to throw out that my St. Louis Blues are still playing. They're in the Western Conference Finals, playing the San Jose Sharks. So, I got my fingers crossed. For some reason, I really love playoff hockey. The regular season is just, it's kind of there, but playoff hockey is an entirely different animal. And I probably am one of about 3 people in Princeton that keep up with the NHL at all. But I'm always looking for that next person. Yeah, probably so. And probably the people that do, the others are probably Predators fans, right? Probably, yeah. Most of them anyway, yeah. Well, the other 2. yeah. Kevin, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, and we'll have to have you on again sometime and talk sports again. That sounds good. I appreciate you asking me to be on anytime, so it's good visiting with you. That's Kevin Patton of the Henderson Gleaner, and again, thanks to him for joining us this morning on the Sideline Report. Thanks to Danny Beavers and Roy Jean Rogers for coming in the studio this morning, and that hour went by really quickly, and wish we'd had time to talk more with everybody, but we'll have everybody back again. I do want to say congratulations to Caldwell County senior Barrett Schultz. He will play soccer at Concord University in Athens, West Virginia. So another Caldwell County Tiger has signed to play college athletics, and that's always a good thing. Again, a busy schedule today if the weather cooperates, and that's the big thing. And I think it just started to rain now, so maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it. But baseball has a home date against Hopkinsville today. The softball team plays Hopkins Central here in a makeup date.
Tennis hosts University Heights, and track goes to Hopkins County Central today. So lots of sports going on. Just get out and support your local teams. That's going to wrap up the Sideline Report for this Thursday. I'm Todd Griffin of WPKY Radio and YourSportsEdge.com. Thanks for listening. This is the Sideline Report on WPKY.
Serving Caldwell County since 1950. We're 1580, 103.3 WPKY Princeton.
Fox News.